It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back into another weekend that is here. Yes, it has been a long week. Nothing has been fast for me. What about you? Had any success in the property real estate market, or have you just got to say to yourself, I'm going to leave that for next week? It does happen, doesn't it? We take the wins when they are on offer. And it is a Saturday morning, August the 9th. Now, when is the next major real estate downturn likely to head our way? Is it something that keeps you up late at night? Well, the economists say that it would take a deep, prolonged financial shock to trigger a true property crash in Australia. Most homeowners are well ahead of repayments. I mean, this is kind of baked in at the moment into the psyche. Chronic housing shortages and limited supply is keeping prices resilient even when rate rises occur. So in all of that, the experts believe that the Reserve Bank and major lenders would step in quickly during a downturn. Gee, I hope that would be the case, which would ease the pressure on borrowers. So don't stay up too late at night worrying about that major slump in the real estate market. Let's right now on our weekend catch up with Paul O'Riordan from O'Riordan Real Estate in the Blue Mountains. And good morning to you, Paul. Welcome back to the Real Estate Breakfast. And just talking on that, I note that you don't really have a lot of mortgagee sales where you are.
Good morning, Craig. Great to be with you again. No, look, we don't. It's very few and far between. You know, even over the last 10 years, even through the COVID, there might have been one or two, but that was more kind of triggered from couples separating and people aren't paying the mortgage anymore. So banks are kind of getting a little bit antsy. But true mortgagee sales where people just couldn't make the repayments, I can't remember one happening up here.
If that is you, if you're going through this divorce period, you're still living under the same roof, as Paul says, don't just stop making the payments. That is so dumb. You're killing yourself as well as your spouse financially. So, yeah, keep the payments up. You don't want a mortgagee sale. That's going to be a double blow. Now, Paul, today we're going to be unpacking some big changes coming to Australia's real estate industry, and we want to talk about what this means for buyers and sellers. Now, we're talking about things like tough new anti-money laundering laws, reshaping the property transactions to expanded first home buyer benefits next year in 2026. There is plenty to know here. So first off, what are the new anti-money laundering and also these counter-terrorism financing laws for real estate, and why are they being introduced?
Yeah, look, these changes, they start from July 1st next year, so 2026. They're abbreviated to the AML-CTF laws, and they come into effect in the real estate industry as part of a crackdown on financial crime. And they're being rolled out to what's known as Tranche 2 entities. Now, the Tranche 2 entities includes real estate agents, buyers agents, property developers, accountants, and trust and company service providers. And what that means is, like the banks and solicitors already do, agents are now, they're going to need to verify and record the identity of both buyers and sellers and understand where the money is coming from. And they're going to have to report any suspicious activity to AUSTRAC. Real estate has been identified as a sector of risk, being misused to launder money or conceal proceeds of crime. And bringing the real estate industry into line with other industries, the goal is to improve transparency and safeguard the property market. And it's worth noting as well, Craig, that AUSTRAC and industry bodies, this is very fresh legislation. They're still working through the fine print. So the exact procedures and compliance measures are still to be finalised. But what we do know, change is definitely coming, and the industry will need to be ready from July 1 next year.
These anti-money laundering problems around real estate, it isn't new, but as far as digital is concerned, it has sort of ramped up. You kind of wonder with crypto just how much more the authorities have decided to really clamp down with these kind of new rules that are coming. And often people forget about changes, but what will buyers need to do differently, do you think, when purchasing a property under these new rules?
Look, there'll be a few extra steps for buyers to complete with the selling agent before you move ahead with the purchase. Look, none of it's going to be too daunting at this stage, as far as we know, but it's similar to what the details you provide already to your conveyancer or your broker. So firstly, you'll need to provide formal ID, like a driver's license or passport, so the agent can verify your identity. Then you'll be asked to show where your deposit or funds are coming from, and this might be a bank statement, a loan approval, or evidence of a property sale. And agents will need to ask a few diligence questions just to confirm that who you're buying for and how the purchase is being funded.
Okay, so these new rules that you're talking about this morning, it does apply to everyone, but some might wonder what happens if somebody can't provide these documents that you're talking about. And then there is this really big one in all of this, and that is, how safe is the personal information going to be?
These new rules will apply to every buyer and seller, regardless of the price point and around the entire country. So whether you're buying your first home or selling an investment, agents will be legally required to verify your identity and confirm where the money's coming from and keep proper records as well. Look, if you can't provide necessary documents, things like the form of ID and proof of funds, agents may be legally required to step back from the transaction. So these checks aren't optional. They're federal law. You're going to have to do them. Privacy is going to be the big issue, and that's what I've been thinking as these laws are kind of coming into play. That said, your personal information is protected under Australia's privacy laws. Everything you provide will be handled securely and only shared if legally required. For most buyers, Craig, this won't be too much of a burden, just a few more extra steps. But for the agents, it does mean a lot more compliance, a lot more procedures, and a lot more responsibility in the background.
Yeah, and, you talk about compliance. There's a reasonable amount of compliance, isn't there, from a real estate perspective, real estate agents and the likes. It's probably something that goes completely unnoticed for those that are transacting through their local real estate agents. They're just completely oblivious, so this is going to add another layer to all of that.
It is. And real estate agents, they get burdened with it. There's already a very large amount of compliance in real estate. And look, to be fair, we've always collected the vendor's identification, but now it's by law with the buyers as well. We'll wait to see what the exact compliance will be, but there's going to be a lot more of it.
We are talking to Paul O'Riordan from the Blue Mountains. When we come back in just a moment, if you are a first home buyer looking at different locations in terms of where can I buy a property that is affordable, Paul is going to talk about you and your cohort next.
Every morning from 6 a.m, we bring you the latest real estate news with diverse perspectives from leading industry experts. We deliver the most property podcasts across Australia every week. You're listening to the Saturday Property Market Update.
In 2021, Australia's building codes were updated to tighten rules around cladding use, but legacy issues remain and many buildings are still awaiting remediation.
It's possible that up to 80% of unit blocks that have been built in the last 25 or so years have some form of combustible cladding, if not over the entire building, certainly on parts of the building, and that many of these buildings and building managers and strata corporations aren't even aware that they have this combustible cladding. And so therefore they're not becoming part of any rectification program. And if it's not bad enough that we also have a situation where probably 80% of buildings or apartment blocks built in the last 25 years also have significant water ingress problems. And we've seen that play out in some of the bigger towers where we've had to have entire blocks of residents move out because their properties are so water affected that they become unstable. Now we have this as well, and it makes it a little bit scary to be a buyer of a unit.
From the emotion of property, the economic inflation, Managing your expectations, lack of stock, price growth, construction appetite, days on the market. Stay informed with us and know your property.
And the weekend is here. Yes, just looking forward to relaxing into these 2 days. If you're having a busy weekend out looking at property, good luck. Now, I know that one of your favourite talking points, Paul, is first home buyers and the struggle that they face for years to save up for this wretched deposit. It's a real thing when we talk about hardship and an unfair playing field. And baby boomers who say, just suck it up. It was tough in my day too. No, it wasn't. Completely different set of circumstances, baby boomers. Horses for courses simply do not apply, not even close. And your local area, Paul, of the Blue Mountains. Now, this is still a popular draw card for first home buyers to turn to because you get those inquiries from people from everywhere, it seems.
And there are some very big changes coming for them, and it's going to open the door to even more first home buyers. So the new stimulus, we talk about stimulus a lot. From January 1st next year, the federal government is expanding the already in place home buyer guarantee scheme. So that's the one that lets eligible purchasers use just a 5% deposit, and the government steps in to guarantee the other 15. That means no LMI or lender's mortgage insurance, which can save around 30 grand on a $900,000 property. And what is changing in the guarantee scheme is pretty substantial. The income cap is being scrapped completely. So currently it's at $125,000 for singles and couples earning $200,000. If you're over that, it doesn't apply to you, but next year it will. They're also removing the property price cap, which has been sitting at $900,000. So now it's going to be open to any price point. And on top of that, the number of places available under the scheme, it's currently at 35,000 people each year. That is set to increase. So you combine that with the existing stamp duty concessions, it means we're likely to see a very big buyer surge in activity early new year. So if you're in a position right now to purchase without the need for stimulus, I would strongly suggest acting before these changes kick in, because when the competition is only going to grow, and that will inevitably put upward pressure on prices, and it's going to make it a little bit tougher.
Oh, without a doubt. Yes, you want to be looking at getting in as soon as possible because that 5%, it's a game changer without the insurance. And just realise I've probably alienated myself against those baby boomers with my earlier comment. But coming back to that, Paul, you can probably relate to it. You're not a baby boomer, but very, very hard, isn't it? And that 5%, it is going to help enormously.
Yeah, look, if you just had to save up the 20% deposit each time, I think they did some research on it. It was taking about 12 years. So if you take 12 years to save a deposit, in 12 years' time, that deposit isn't going to be enough. So you'd be chasing your tail forever. I think this scheme is extremely good because mortgage insurance only insures a bank. It does not insure you. And it very much feels like dead money when you've got to pay it.
All right, we'll leave it there. Enjoy your upcoming weekend there in the Blue Mountains. And yes, lots to think about, a lot of takeaway, of course, with that compliance and those new rules and regulations coming into effect in 2026. Talk again soon, Paul.
Beautiful. Thank you, Craig. It's always a pleasure being with you.
Explore new property destinations where you could live with exclusive interviews covering real estate news and market insights.
When we were planning to diversify, we thought that Dubai might be a good option for us. By that time, we already had bought 2 properties, but we were having some doubts and concerns.
The whole experience, let's step over this, Matt. For those that are listening that haven't gone through what you have gone, what can you share?
The whole experience actually felt really casual, like too casual actually. So I was half expected to the developers to confirm my payment with an emoji on a WhatsApp. And I'm signing everything on my phone and then sending it back to them. But then I realized that this actually comes from a mutual trust. And I think Dubai government is actually taking this very seriously. They don't allow any scams or any other things happening, especially when it comes to Dubai. And yeah, so once I got my documents, the contracts, and also there's another document called Ukud, I think. That's the off-the-plan contract with the Dubai Land Department. Once I had those things, I was able to apply for the Golden Visa.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.